Blog Talk Radio.
Eckhart, you talk about in an ever-changing world, a species needs to either adapt or they will die out. And then you go on to say, and I quote, that humanity is now faced with a stark choice: evolve or die.
There's so much to say in so little time. This is a song for those left behind, an insider's view to what's going on if Christians are raptured away and are gone. In case of emergency, take this CD and make many copies to give away free. But first get a Bible and start reading now. The moment will come when they will not allow distribution, possession of anything Christian. You'll go underground, a secret resistance, and face persecution, imprisoned and beaten. Now is the time to make your decision, to battle his minions left on this earth, or fall for a false explanation. Prefer to be herded like sheep. The ancient delusion, the oldest of schemes, has come to conclusion. The mark of the beast from the father of lies, the angel of light, master of disguise. He's devising a plan, preparing us now, and through evolution convincing the crowd that aliens somehow are out there and bound to have all of the answers and power to know the solution. Like indigo children, smarter than humans, more intuition, much more evolved. They're sending a vision, prepare the whole world with a false explanation. If we're to evolve, we must remove Christians. They call it the cleansing, and this is their mission.
Evolve or die refers to whether humanity survives as a species. There is an enormous awakening happening on the planet.
The age of Aquarius, ending duality, Oprah the secret, and Eckhart Tolle preach what will bring in a new age reality, based in traditions of pagan theosophy, bound to be thousands of offshoots of Crowley, students of Alistair Bailey who follow the lies of Helena Blavatsky, radically altering, changing the pages of history, laying the groundwork forged by the tools of Lucifer, paving the way for the United Nations, a slow preparation, patiently waiting since the creation. The Garden of Eden, a planet whose placement in time is persuaded by aliens, outside invasions, abductions, and cow mutilations, creating an atmosphere ripe for the picking, with movies and Hollywood implanting trickery, mastery over the masses. The whole world collapses in panic, all desperate for someone to save them. Obey anyone that will answer their questions. The savior of sorts, a new age messiah. The wolf in sheep's clothing is what will transpire. The mayhem is out of control at this moment. A world full of chaos, confusion, and torment. I'm telling you, don't stop at anything. You can't afford to face life without Christ as your king. The moment might come when the storms of reality, trapped in a world where it's actually happening.
That's one of my favorite quotes that a significant portion of the Earth's population will soon recognize, if they haven't already done so, that humanity is now faced with a stark choice: evolve or die.
If the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of their money, first by inflation and then by deflation, the banks and corporations that will grow up around them will deprive the people of their property until their children will wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered. Thomas Jefferson. Welcome, friends, readers, listeners, and viewers. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. This is FallenAngels.tv, and tonight we're going to cover just current events and talk about waking up to the strange realities of the New World Order, because there's many people that have been led to the show because of their interest in mythology or the study of the word or prophecy. A lot have been led, in your search on Nephilim and giants, but we also covered this other aspect of it, the whole conspiratorial reality of what is, the strange nature of what we're dealing with on this planet, and so we're going to bring you up to date on what the plans are as far as the elite, and also the strange nature of what we're dealing with Israel and Iran and the global financial collapse, and how all these things are agenda-driven and tied together. Also going to speak a little bit about the election and how basically you have no choice. You have two sides of the same coins. You may call one or the other the lesser of two evils, but essentially it's the same people being represented. The race has been rigged since the beginning. We don't have choice, and it doesn't matter how many of us go out and vote and think that our vote is going to be truly representative. It's not. It's just that's the way it is. That's the reality of what you're dealing with. First, you have the electronic voting machines. Then you also have the electoral college put into place, and that usurps the popular vote and the whole will of the people. The one vote, one person, one representation, and so all that was thrown out the window a long time ago as well. Tonight I've got as co-host with me Roman White. Roman, you want to give a shout out?
Yeah. Hello, everybody. And Zen, it's always a thrilling adventure to be on your program, Zen.
Yeah, you never know what we're going to go into, huh, Roman? I always just email him and ask him if he can be on with me, and don't even some of the times don't even give him the topic, and so yeah, it's always an adventure, huh?
They announced this QE3, and this time they're saying that it's unlimited. I guess it's limited only by the amount of trees or the hard space available to count ones and zeros.
Well, I think they know that they're at the end game as far as their ability to print and to float it and to keep the illusion going for too much longer. And they know also that all of the other countries are doing the same. So basically what you have is a race to the end to see who's going to collapse first and who can milk the system for the most that they can, because nobody expects to pay back the debt. Everybody realizes that something extravagant and extraordinary is going to have to come out of the collapse of the system. And that's, it's been planned, orchestrated, brought into what it is now. And all this was not by accident. They didn't just oh my gosh, we're now $16 trillion in debt. It didn't happen that way. Roman, you want to comment?
They say that when they first started this quantitative easing, that they were getting a fourfold increase. In other words, if they spent $1 billion, it produced $4 billion. It had the effect of that. And each time that they've done it, it has gone down and down, the more that they put in circulation. And the last time I heard, they said that they were getting 30 cents. In other words, if they put in a billion, they get $1.3 billion out. So, that's coming to a wind down. It's not going to work anymore because it's having no result. And, of course, all it's for is to prop up the banks and the derivatives markets anyway, keep them going a little while longer. But they're not going to go much more, and they can't go very much further. They're pretty well dead in the water.
Well, here's the other thing that we're not hearing about, and that's that the other countries of the world, because they're not able to just print their money and devalue their currency the way that we are able to, they can't compete, and their currency are also losing in value, and they have to adjust to the money supply and the money flow of the American dollar. And so you have other countries of the world now taking the extraordinary measure to price commodities in currencies other than the dollar. And so they're trying to limit their exposure to the dollar, and then they're also trying to change what is being used in different places as far as exchange for commodities. And now China's been paying Iran gold for their oil. Roman?
Yeah, so is India. So they said they announced, China announced on the 6th of this month that any country could buy oil and pay for it in their currency. And the day after that, Russia announced that they would contract to furnish China all the oil and gas that they needed, and they could pay for it in the Chinese currency. So the dollar is being bypassed, and for years now, the only thing that has held the dollar up, they called it the petrodollar, because every country had to use the dollar in order to buy oil. That's coming to a screeching halt. And when it does, and the dollar is no longer the world's reserve currency, all of those dollars overseas, which were at least 10 to 1, are coming home. Mm-hmm. And I mean by that, if you think in terms of a $4.40 postage stamp, or a $20 loaf of bread, or $40 per gallon for gasoline, you get what that means as far as inflation goes. And another thing that I heard a couple of weeks back that I thought was kind of interesting, Treasury Department is no longer printing any more dollars, which I guess there's no need to print them, because they're figuring that very soon now there's going to be a mass influx of dollars coming in from all of the overseas countries. There'll be no place else to spend them if the U.S. dollar is not the reserve currency. The only place that there'll be to spend them is here in the United States. And that should kick off massive inflation.
Well, here's another thing that we don't realize, because we're homebound and domestic, that already in a lot of places in the world the dollar is not accepted anymore. Many countries have totally eradicated use of it, and will not accept it no matter what the value of it, because they consider it totally worthless. And so you are being forced to exchange wherever you can, and that's also becoming a problem, is finding somewhere for you to be able to exchange your dollars to get other currencies so that you can actually use them wherever you may be.
Yeah, and in the meantime, our Congress, our government, just continues to spend money like a drunken sailor. These people need their heads examined.
Well, they don't plan on doing anything different. They're going to.
No, I think they're purposely collapsing our economy.
Exactly, they're going to spend until it collapses. Because they know they don't plan on paying anything back. And they know the gig is up, too. They know the rest of the world realizes also that that things are going downhill for not only America, but the European Union, and that's going to take everybody down with them. The whole system is going to collapse. What everybody had faith in as far as the financial world system, the way that the markets were tied together and incorporated and all linked, that whole system is no longer trusted, and people are realizing that it's a rigged game. Let me ask you this, Roman, because this is a difficult thing for a lot of people that are waking up to truth. And for a lot of people that have studied the Word, that may understand prophecy, may know about a lot of the secrets that are contained within the Word, but may not know about the other side of it, the New World Order, the conspiratorial side of it, the spiritual nature of the war, the enmity between the seedlines. It's just now that people are even becoming aware that there is another seedline on this planet, and that this seedline is dedicated to evil and dedicated to their father Satan. And the Lord called them out, in the New Testament, and told us exactly who we were contending with, and that even though they were of Abraham's seed, that they claimed to be of Abraham's seed, that their true nature was that they were of the tares. And they are that synagogue of Satan.
Now, they're Abraham's seed through Esau. And during the Maccabean rebellion, one of the kings of the Maccabees, John Hyrcanus, went down and conquered Edom and converted them to Judaism at the point of a sword. And Uncle Esau, being what he is, they tend to take over everything that comes in contact or challenges them. And at the time of Jesus Christ, that's what had happened. They had taken over ancient Israel. They did the same thing whenever they were again attacked by Rome. They went in and pretty well took over the Roman Empire and bankrupted it. And these same people are doing the same thing today with the United States.
A lot of people don't realize that even Herod, when he was sitting on the throne in Jerusalem as a Roman appointee, that he was also of the lineage of Esau. That he was a descendant.
Yeah, he was an Idumean. And Idumean in Greek, Edom and Idumea, they're the same thing. Edomite or Idumean. They're the same thing. It's just the Greek pronunciation of the same word.
Right. And so people don't, another thing that when you start to study the bloodline, you realize that Esau had given up his birthright, and that he was even hated before he had even come into the flesh, meaning that he had done something prior to even being birthed in the flesh here and giving up his birthright, that in his first world age body, in his first world age embodiment, that he was already a rebeller and an usurper, and that he was hated by the Most High. And that was all part of his election, and we've discussed that and talked about that, because all that has part to do with pre-existence and all that. But Esau and Ishmael and those bloodlines, they are excluded. The Canaanites, Ham, or the children of Ham, Canaan, the Canaanites, the fourth-born son of Ham. All these are part of the seed of the serpent, and they are the ones that are excluded from the book of life and also excluded from salvation. I'm not saying all of them, because the Lord extended salvation and eternal life even unto the Gentile nations, and that the Canaanites, if they so desire, they can repent and turn to the Lord for salvation and choose to serve Him as well. Roman, you want to comment on that?
When Rome fell, you had the banking families of Venice, which is just over there, actually right around Rome. Rome rebuilt, you might say. But the present Queen of England traces her ancestry back to these same Romans, and she claims to be a Venetian. And a Venetian is the same thing as a Phoenician in the ancient languages, which is the same thing as this Canaanite lineage. You can trace them all the way through. Same people doing the same thing over and over and over and over again.
Right. And another thing that you'll also find throughout the Word when you start to study in depth both the Old and the New Testament is you'll find the commandment to the Hebrew, the Israelites, to not intermarry with the pagan nations and also with the Canaanite children, especially in the early generations, like before Noah, the 10 first patriarchs. In the first book of Adam and Eve, they are implored to never intermarry with the Canaanites. And so that's why it's important, in my opinion, to know about what the Lord is thinking about as far as the enmity between the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent, because it helps to unlock what, in my opinion, are much of the veiled secrets contained within the Word. And this is just one of those foundational truths which help to unlock so much of the other aspects of the Holy Word, in my opinion. Robbie, you want to
I think it's interesting too that the nation of Edom is the only nation that the Scripture says that God will not forgive. They're going to be completely obliterated.
Right. Yeah, just like the fallen angels, and for their interdiction and for what they did, he's not going to forgive them either. He's fed up with their evil and their commitment to it.
Well, now it would seem that the international banking community, in order to get everybody's mind off of all the misery that they're in with the economy collapsing the way it is, they have to start a war. And I think possibly within the next month, maybe a month and a half, I think you're going to see a war with either Syria or Iran. If it's Syria, it'll bring in Iran, so it might as well be with Iran. I think you'll see the kickoff of World War III, and you're even seeing some of that spill over into China and Japan are having a dispute now over some islands, and they're even talking about going to war. So the New World Order crowd, they have war in the air, and it's just everywhere. I think everybody is looking for a war to just kick off any day now.
Well, there's also, they were talking about now there's tensions between China and Japan as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, they're having their dispute over an island chain out there that Japan claims and China claims, and they're well, if you listen to what some of the leaders, and I don't mean by that the top leadership, but on down from them a little ways, what they're saying, you would think that that's going to erupt into a hot war. Whether it will or not, I don't know.
Well, I'm going to read
this.
They're
sure not happy with each other.
I want to bring forth this email to give people a little bit of insight onto tensions that are occurring right now in Israel, because what's going on with the situation between Israel and Iran is definitely at a heightened state. And there's talk, and there's been rumors, of course, rumored confirmations as to whether Israel will go ahead and preemptively strike Iran prior to the November elections, which from what I understand, there's been a contention happening between Obama and Netanyahu as far as the timing of the attack and whether America will, in fact, support Israel in doing such an action. So I'm going to read this, and then I'll get Roman to comment on this too, because there's definitely something in the air as far as, possibility of World War III being kicked off in any time, any time. And I'm no fearmonger, and I'm not a date setter or anything like that, but there seems to be something specific to this particular time. It says this: my brother and his family live in Jerusalem. He is a minister and a former Navy SEAL. His office is close to one of Israel's largest underground military bases. He called me last night, which is very unusual. Usually it's email. He called to tell me that he is sending his family back to the U.S. immediately due to what he is seeing happen within the last week and what he is being told by his military contacts in both Israel and the U.S. military. He said he is seeing with his own eyes military movements of the likes of which he has never seen in his 20-plus years of being and living in Israel. What he called a massive redeployment and protective tactics of forces is underway. Over the last 2 days, he has seen anti-aircraft missile deployments throughout the Jerusalem area, including 3 mobile units that he can see from his office window. In addition, he has seen very large Israeli armored columns moving fast toward the Sinai, where Egypt has now moved in armor. There are reports of the top military leaders meeting with Israel senior rabbi, which is something that has happened preceding every prior military campaign. His admonition is to watch carefully and to pray for Israel and its people. He is convinced that barring something extraordinary, Israel will attack Iran with or without the U.S., and very soon. It is the belief in Israel that Obama does not stand with Israel, but with the Arab countries. He has told me before that Israel will saber rattle from time to time, but this time is very different from what he is seeing and hearing. He was at the Wailing Wall 2 days ago, and there were hundreds of IDF soldiers there. As he was leaving, he passed at least 20 military buses full of soldiers en route to the Wailing Wall. He has never seen this before either. Just thought he would pass this information along. I want to give you 2 other confirmations which are a little bit linked to this. There's a news article that was released yesterday talking about 12 nations coming together to perform military exercises in the Persian Gulf where they are sweeping mines to clear an Iranian blockade of the Straits of Hormuz and a bottlenecking of what would be the global oil trade, which would cause prices of crude to skyrocket. I have a friend that she's a Hebrew scholar, and she has family also in Israel, and she's spoken to them directly over the past couple of days, and they also are concerned that Israel is going to strike Iran. And this is, prior to the election. There were several other things spoken about as far as the narrow window of possibility for Israel to do what it's going to do if it essentially is going to do it. And the reason being is that, and this is if Iran doesn't already have all of the nuclear fuel that it needs to enrich to actually arm and tip a ICBM with a nuclear weapon and be a direct threat to Israel. They say that this could take several months. Some say that Iran already has the capacity. All we know is that we are quickly coming and going to be going by that window of opportunity for Israel for Israel to act. And so whether they will or not, there seems to be a feeling in Israel that Netanyahu is determined to go the course and to protect Israel in the best way that he knows how, which is preemptively, which is exactly what they did to Iraq's nuclear program prior to Saddam Hussein being able to enrich. And we're at the same point here in Iran. Roman?
Personally, I think this election is all but like a Don King prize fight. It seems to me that I don't think the Kenyan, I don't think he's going to leave office, even if he loses the election. And it looks like the other candidate is shooting himself in the foot. I think he's a candidate that's supposed to take a dive so that Obama can get back in. But this man is so hated that, the handwriting may be on the wall that he's not going to get back in. And if so, I kind of look at this like Israel is kind of a trump card that if they figure they can't win the election shortly before the election, they kick off a war, and then if they have an election that would tend to help the Kenyan stay in office, or if he doesn't stay in office, he simply declares martial law because of an economic collapse or whatever and stays in office. It's like Caesar crossing the Rubicon. I think we're going to have a dictator. I don't think the man's going to leave office myself. But on the other hand, if it looks like he might win the election, he's kind of holding Israel off until after the election, and then they'll have their war. So that's kind of the way that I see the thing playing out.
Yeah, there are some that have said that, they see Obama as being the last president, and that, some have said that, the elections might be even suspended. I think that the globalists will do whatever they need to reinstall Obama, just as they did Bush, because there's no need to change in the middle of in the middle of their stride, so to speak. They've got the perfect person in place. Obama has done excellent work in destroying America and bringing us to the brink of collapse. He's quadrupled even the debt that George Bush had put on us, and George Bush had borrowed more money than all other presidents combined, and Obama, you can say the same for him. So in the past two presidents, we've strapped on enough debt to where we can't make it back from this.
Another thing, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, for Americans who don't realize the situation of what we're dealing with, think about a bankrupt business. A bankrupt business, eventually the doors close, the locks are changed, and all the people are laid off, nobody goes to work, everything stops until the time for whatever bankruptcy talks to be bargained out, that takes time, and so we don't even realize what we're essentially facing, because there will be a collapse, a shutdown. It's not going to just sustain itself forever.
Well, the guy sitting in the White House has done so much, unconstitutional things. virtually announced that he doesn't need an act of Congress to declare war, that he can do whatever he pleases, that he does it at the pleasure and behest of the United Nations. He sits as a high-ranking official in the United Nations, which is, supposedly he's leading our country, but he is a high-ranking official of a foreign power. All of this is unconstitutional. It's unheard of. It's totally and completely outlandish, and yet people just let him get away with it. Why would they not just allow him to declare himself dictator for life, like Caesar did, and go right on along? I don't see anything stopping him. Certainly the Congress isn't attempting to stop him. They seem very happy with the situation the way it is. And then you look at all the ammunition and so forth that the government's buying. I think they bought another 1 million or so rounds within the last week or so. And it's pretty obvious to me that they're going to use that on the American people because I think they're planning for an internal rebellion when the manure hits the fan, which it's going to shortly.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that as well, because that's something that, even though it's being reported in the news, it's not being well reported. Why is it that even the Social Security Administration is buying millions of rounds of ammo? You have all these three-letter agencies buying all this massive amount of ammunition. Why? And you don't just buy ammo to store it somewhere, and not this many rounds. I mean, they are definitely planning on something. And then, of course, if you read the internal memos, the internal documents, they are planning for civil unrest. They're planning for riots and wars right here in the streets of America. And that's part of the plan.
About. They know
that's
that
part
that's
of the
going
plan
to
of
come about.
collapsing it.
When everything collapses, the American people are going to rebel, and they are arming to put down or attempt to put down that rebellion. And when they fail with the military and with the police force, and the people grind those into the dirt, and about half the population is dead, and everybody's tired of fighting a civil war, they'll march in foreign troops and they'll pacify this nation. And the unfortunate thing is, probably by that time, half of the American people will welcome UN peacekeeping troops, just like Henry Kissinger said that they would, to restore order.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I want to ask you about
play
this.
the part of the heroes.
Well, they set up the whole bad cop, good cop scenario, and they're going to be the saviors. It's the whole problem, reaction, solution, which is another one of the things that is difficult for truth seekers, for Christians, for people that are coming to truth as far as the conspiracy side of the world, the conspiratorial reality of what we're dealing with, and that governments, sponsor their own terrorist groups to push forward an agenda. And it's sad to say, but that's the truth of what's going on. Operation Northwoods is a document you can look up that gives verification to these things. And now, they're not even trying to hide it. The government doesn't even try to hide the false flag attacks anymore. The connections to the intelligence sources, even with this new, this movie that has been cited in the presses that is stirring up all the Muslim nations. It was an insider, an informant that was the creator of this particular movie. But I wanted to ask you about this, Roman. I saw a news report not long ago, and it was talking about the possibility of an EMP blast in the event of war with Iran, of an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse bomb.
Yeah.
EMP blast.
Yeah,
and
if they did that, it could bring down the entire grid.
Right. This the guy that I'm speaking about, he has a website called the second after, or something like that. I can't remember exactly the name of the website.
That could also come from a sun flare.
Right, exactly. Well,
and the Congress voted to harden those to where that they wouldn't be susceptible to that. And the Senate, even though the funds were voted in, the Senate vetoed that.
Right,
I mean, it wouldn't take that much money to harden our grid to where it couldn't go down. But they don't want to. They don't care. It's as if they want it to go down.
Right. And this was a study that was conducted in 2004 by the Congress. And so the Congress, in this report now, this is the severity of the nature of what we're talking about. In this report, Congress stated that in the case of one well-placed EMP right over the center of the country, that it would destroy the critical nature of the power system, all the electrical grid systems, the phone, the communication system. It would put us back into the 18th century in, the matter of a few moments. And it basically also said, hold on one second, Roman. It also said in this particular text that 90% of Americans would be dead within 10 months after an electromagnetic pulse bomb. And that was simply from the devastation of the infrastructure. All right, go ahead, Roman.
Yeah, and people don't realize too that these giant forget what they call them, transformers. I'm not talking about the ones that are on the pole out there. I'm talking about these big ones that they build fences around, and when you drive by, you can hear them humming. Those things are millions of dollars a piece. And you don't run down and buy one of those off the shelf. One of these electromagnetic pulses can fry and melt all of that together. Those things are custom built for the particular place that they're going into, and it takes about 2 to 3 years to build them. And that's assuming you have electrical power to build them. If all of those things were fried, it could well take us 10 to 50 years to get those damn things back in place with no electricity to build them. Or, 10 years, assuming that there was some other country we could order them from and they had electricity to build them.
Now, another thing that was reported in this particular study, and again, this was a congressional study that was put forth in 2004. And so Congress knows the extremely sensitive nature of our grid system and our vulnerability to these EMP, electromagnetic pulse bomb. All it would take is one nuclear bomb blown up in the atmosphere to cause this devastation. Well, another part of the study says that as far as America and our food system and as far as our grocery stores and our Walmarts and everything, that essentially within our country at any one time, that we have 21 days worth of food available on the shelves for the people. And that it would only take one such bomb attack, one such weapon such as this, to devastate the whole nature and availability of the food delivery system. the shipping, everything would just come
in the grocery stores
halt.
in the big cities. They claim that we're 9 meals away. That's 3 days away from starvation.
And that's if you get anything from the shelves. You're going to have to fight just to get that. Because, people in desperation, they'll kill you for a meal, They'll kill you for a bottle of water. They'll kill you for your vehicle. And so you don't want to be one of those that has to, get in a line somewhere.
I heard a report
or to have
today.
To rely on it. Go ahead, Roman.
I heard a report today that the powers that be are planning on trading food for guns and or ammunition.
Food for guns or ammunition, really?
Yeah, in other words, if you're hungry, and you want food, they say, well, fine, we'll
give up your,
you bring in a gun or a gun and some ammunition, and we'll give you food. And if you don't, there's no food available.
That reminds me of a quote that the United Nations put out a long time ago about how they would use food as a weapon against the masses. And
right. Exactly.
I guess we're to that point again.
Kissinger said years ago, you control nations with oil, and you control people with food.
Right. Right. And so, whether you've taken any kind of steps to just build up a small supply of food and water and emergency supplies, medical supplies. Roman and I talked about this on a number of different shows, but I think it's essential for people to just, and I know that not a lot of people have any kind of money at all to do these kind of things, but do what you can with whatever it is that you do have available. But here's one thing I wanted to ask you too, Roman. Did you hear about the new executive order that was put in place by Obama, stating that, food supplies, medical supplies, even fuel supplies, even, the crops that people are growing, their cattle, that in a state of an emergency, that, with his power and authority, that he can take and confiscate and take over anything for the sake of government.
Take that, take land, take just virtually anything he wants. I mean, there'd be no such thing as private property anymore.
Right. Do you know that executive order number?
No, I don't. Matter of fact, I heard that some months ago. Seems like it was about 6 months ago, as near as I can make out. But, this man is bent on becoming a dictator, right? Everything that he does just shows utter contempt for the United States.
Right. Well, I know that, as far as the riots in America, I reported on this a number of years ago, but there are tent cities now outside of every metropolitan area, and there are so many that are being forced to live out on the streets. Even a lot of the Occupy Wall Street movement, a lot of those are homeless people that had nowhere else to go, and so there's a lot of people that are one step away from having to resort to criminality for meal or to take care of themselves. And the critical nature of what we're dealing with in America, we have whole families, that are homeless together. You have all the shelters that are full. The food banks are depleted. So things are getting worse, and things are going to continue to, in my opinion, to degrade, because you're going to see, as they keep printing money, you're going to see the price of commodities increase exponentially across the board, and that's going to be everything. Just saw a story, especially with the devastation of the corn crop. I saw a story recently about how chicken prices are going to go through the roof, and corn, and all these different things. That food in itself is so much more costly and has increased.
All of them started moving up about the middle of June.
Yeah, and people are being forced to decide whether to eat or to put fuel in their vehicles, and that's another thing that is happening, is that the cost of oil, with the continued threat of violence in the Middle East, that also, in my opinion, will continue to rise in price, and that will also put a pinch upon not only Americans but the global economy.
When this war kicks off, I wouldn't be surprised if the price of gasoline didn't double in a week or two.
Yeah, how did it unfold when Jimmy Carter was in office? It was like immediately it went to, it got so expensive that Americans had to line up for gas. There were boycotts, there were riots. I mean, yeah, so we could see the same thing
shortages,
here.
yeah.
Yeah,
people
gas
tend
shortages.
to forget all of that.
Right. Siegling says the John Warner Defense Authorization Act and the Military Commissions Act of 2006 gave the president the power to seize any kind of all private property and at his discretion. I would also let people know that it was just like 3 days ago that I saw a video just released about a new executive order that, gave Obama the right to, even to take your crops, to take your cattle, to take your fuel supply, to take even your stored food, that all your private property was now essentially an extension of government, that everything we owned, there's no private property anymore. We basically have entered into socialist contract where government owns everything, and they delve it out to us as they see fit. Go ahead, Robert. We got about 7 minutes.
A couple of months ago in a speech, he said that, the business that you built, it's not yours. You didn't build that alone. You had a helping hand. Ostensibly, he was telling everybody then that the government owned it. The man's a communist.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And there was a report just today, as a matter of fact, about how he was quoted as saying he believes in redistribution. So anyways, we know that he also is just another puppet on the string. Him, Romney, we have no choice. America, you have no choice. In this election, you had no choice in the one before, the one prior to that one. You had George Bush running against Al Gore. They were cousins, kissing cousins. Jim Carrey, George Bush, they were kissing cousins. Even Obama against McCain. Obama is a cousin to Dick Cheney and to George Bush and to Brad Pitt. Even Sarah Palin is a cousin and part of the family. If you don't believe it, look up an article called The False Left-Right Paradigm, and it will tell you about the blood links, about the connections. These people are all family. You don't have choice. The election is all a dog and pony show. It's just like the Kentucky Derby. They put all these horses out and give you a chance to bet on them and to cheer them on as they run around the track and race against each other. But essentially, the owners are the ones that benefit, and it doesn't matter who wins the race. So, anyways, Brother Roman, I'm going to give you a chance for final comment, and then we're going to end the show.
Well, it looks to me like Romney is doing everything he can to throw the election to Obama. And even at that, he may not be able to. I don't think they're voting as much for Romney as they are against Obama. Even the blacks, the majority of them have turned against him because he even betrayed them.
Right.
And really and truly, the man's he's not black. He's actually 50% white, 12% black, and I think 18% Arab. So, he's more white than he is black. He doesn't, he lies so much, he even lies about his racial stock.
Well, everything about him is based on a lie. I just saw this one article recently talking about how the gay community in Chicago couldn't believe that Obama was elected the president and that his hidden past never even came out. His whole bisexual history and all that, as far as during the election, was kept concealed. And the fact that he wasn't born here, I mean, everybody knows that now as well too. And Joe Arpaio still has an ongoing investigation into all that. But anyways, that's a whole nother story. Roman, I appreciate you, brother, and we'll get together again. We'll do further revelations of truth. I just pray that all of you develop your relating with the Father and come closer in relationship with Him and the Son, because you're going to need Him in the critical nature of the times that we're having to deal with. And I pray that you can open yourselves to the possibilities of the realities of the truth that we're having to face and deal with, and unlearn those things that we thought we knew, because so much of what we think we know is based on lies and fabrications. And so once we can empty ourselves of that, then we can open ourselves for new possibilities and new information. And so in Yahushua Yahweh's name, God bless all.
An hour sure went by quick.
It always does, brother. Always does.
Yeah, well, we'll see you next time.
All right, man. We'll talk. God bless, man.
Good night.
When I was lost, you cared for me. When I turned my back, you never left me. And even though I've done wrong, you've always loved me. When I was gone, you were still with me. When I was lost, you cared for me. When I turned my back, you never left me. And even though I've done wrong, you always loved me. I'm reminded every day of the past and how I hurt you. I wish that time was something I could undo. I don't deserve you, but now I see the only thing that really mattered was you and me. You made me whole. Why did I run? Why did I push away my one true love? If I could go back and change the past, I wouldn't take you for granted. I'd make things last. You're the only one, you're all I think about. I don't know why it took so long to figure it out. I searched so hard for what I had in you, but now I'm back where I started and I'm asking you for forgiveness for the things that I've done, because I know when things got rough I used to run. Thought I could handle life all on my own, but at rock bottom I was all alone except for you. You never left me, I only left you. When you accept me, you can change me. I know you can because you made me, and you have a plan. God forgive me. I know I've done wrong, but now I'm back again where I belong. I want to tell the whole world I finally found what's true, and that I've changed my ways, and it's all because of you. When I was gone, you were still with me. When I was lost, you cared for me. When I turned turned my back, you never left me. And even though I've done wrong, you've always loved me. When I was gone, you were still with me. When I was lost, you cared for me. When I turned my back, you never left me. And even though I've done wrong, you always loved me. I'm sorry, Lord, for all the things that I've done. I know I've acted like the prodigal son. It's like I wanted my inheritance now. And just like him, I was much too proud. I tried to serve two masters, and in the end, it wound up a disaster. I served myself instead of you, my own God. Thought I could make my own truth, my own laws. It seemed the more I tried to run and hide inside, I realized that I was living a lie. A backsliding Christian, living like a heathen, breathing in the types of things that invite demons. I was deceived by my sin and my pride, and my jealousy and envy and greed deep inside my soul. Had no direction or path. I was in search of something that I used to have. A foundation from a Christian home, an unconditional love that my family had shown me as a young child. I want that smile again. I want that joy and peace that I had within. And just like Psalm chapter 127, I wanted his sin, but now I'm back again. God is merciful, you're not alone. A shepherd seeks to bring his lost sheep home. When I was gone, you were still with me. When I was lost, you cared for me. When I turned my back, you never left me. And even though I've done wrong, you've always loved me. When I was gone, you were still with me. When I was lost, you cared for me. When I turned my back, you never left me. And even though I've done wrong, you always loved